In the UK, we have public broadcasting rules for our media companies, regulated by OfCom. This includes all the outlets from the BBC, ITV to Sky News and all the other channels. But one of them hasn't actually been following the rules properly. And you can guess which one? Channel 4. Under these rules, all news outlets have to be completely impartial, and they have to, of course, be challenging when it comes to interviewing people and politicians from either side, but they do need to stay balanced and neutral. Channel 4, not so much. Now, in the last few years, we've seen a lot of examples from Channel 4 in terms of the political bias against the right. For example, Channel 4 recently interviewed a couple who happened to be from the same sex in order to push their own agenda to attack Boris Johnson because he's one of the Conservative candidates for leadership.
The man who's likely to be the next Prime Minister of this country, Boris Johnson, has in the past made some pretty comments. How would you feel about him being in charge?
I do not think that Boris Johnson is fit to lead anything, much less the United Kingdom.
But given that he has made some comments in the past, do you think that that's particularly problematic?
Yes.
Seriously, was it really that necessary to ask those questions in that interview? Another example is when Jordan Peterson was interviewed by Cathy Newman.
You cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I've exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. And that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
Except you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah, it took a while.
It did.
Yeah, that one really didn't go well for Cathy Newman or Channel 4. We've also had one of the top presenters, Jon Snow, allegedly saying the F word in terms of describing Conservatives at the Glastonbury Festival. Now, you think these were bad? Keep watching. During the recent Channel 4 debate for the Conservative leadership elections, this happened. First, they're so petty and childish that when Boris Johnson refused to attend this debate because Channel 4 is a biased outlet, they decided to put an empty podium in his spot. Then they decided to invite floating voters for the audience instead of having Conservative members who are the ones who are going to be voting in this election.
In which the candidates will be questioned face-to-face by a live studio audience. It's made up of floating voters.
And then it came the introduction of the Conservative candidates on the panel. Now, we've had a lot of leadership debates in the past with the Labour leadership, the Conservative leadership, and general political leaders with every general election. We've never had this when the candidates are being introduced by the way they talk about their background and when they went to school. The way the Channel 4 team decided to portray these candidates is quite ridiculous.
Forced to resign as Tory leader, Theresa May's torrid time as Prime Minister is nearly over. But who is the man, and they are all men, to take over? Michael Gove from Aberdeen went to the private Robert Gordon's College on a scholarship before Oxford University and became a journalist. Jeremy Hunt from Surrey went to Charterhouse Boarding School and Oxford. He co-founded a business before going into politics. Sajid Javid went to Downend State School in Bristol before Exeter University and became a banker. Dominic Raab from Buckinghamshire went to Dr. Challoner's State Grammar School and Oxford before becoming a lawyer. And Rory Stewart went to Eton and Oxford before working as a diplomat and founding a charity in Afghanistan.
And we know exactly why they did that. It's their obsession with identity politics. Then we had a question about the candidates' priority in terms of policy aside from Brexit. And then they all answered with different priorities, policies, and the challenges that we're going to be facing in the next few years for this country. But somehow it wasn't enough for our lovely balanced and neutral Channel 4 presenter because he decided to get political and decide what policy should be the priority.
And it's worth just noting that nobody has mentioned climate change as well, I suppose. As
I did.
Big priority.
I mentioned it.
The number one priority.
Christian, both Jeremy and I mentioned it as well.
Not as your number one priority.
Well, I'm talking about the future for our children.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm very confused. I don't think it's the job of Channel 4 to decide what policy area should be a priority for this country. Imagine if the same Channel 4 team decided to instead say, instead of climate change, say that, oh, none of you candidates mentioned that privatization should be a priority. Of course, they would have been destroyed by the left. And then here's the worst one. When Sajid Javid, one of the candidates, was personally targeted by Channel 4 when they decided to ask about him not being invited to meet President Trump when he visited London. Channel 4 decided to ask the question and answer it themselves and decide why Sajid Javid wasn't invited.
Isn't your weakness that you're just not a big enough figure? You weren't a big enough figure to be invited to the Trump dinner.
Oh,
That's ridiculous.
that is ridiculous, Christian.
I wasn't invited.
That
either,
is
Chris.
ridiculous.
Let him ask. Let him answer that. It's a challenge. Let him answer it.
Well, I don't think that was the reason I wasn't invited to the dinner.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but, look.
As I said, we have these broadcasting rules which should apply to all media outlets, including Channel 4. And obviously they haven't been practicing them properly, but no one has actually been challenging the Channel 4 team and the management properly. Now, the reason Channel 4 is kind of special in this case is because unlike other channels like Channel 5, Channel 4 is actually state-owned. They're not privately owned, they're state-owned, and obviously they generate their own revenue, but because they are a public body, they do have to follow even more strict rules in terms of the broadcasting guidelines. And you think this was bad, but back in the 1990s, the EU Commission decided to approve state aid funding for Channel 4. The Commission has decided to approve the new funding arrangements for the independent British television station, Channel 4. Channel 4 is to be given a financial safety net guaranteeing it a certain advertising revenue. So they are a state-owned body, they've got their funding approved by the European Union, and we wonder why they're biased against the right. And this is why online social media channels using platforms like YouTube and other websites is very important. And this is why I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting me and this channel so far, because this is what we have to use to challenge the status quo and establishment. We have to stand up to state-owned bodies like Channel 4 to make sure that accountability is being practiced. And I again say another thank you to everyone who has joined the Cabinet Club so far. The link, as usual, is going to be in the description. If you want to go have a look at it, you'll get a lot of benefits, as usual, with live Q&As and video chats and direct messaging with me and social kind of meetups. As usual, make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell next to it. And I'll see you tomorrow with a new video.